A warm welcome to the show. Polish state folk song and dance ensemble Mazowsze has just returned from a tour of North America. For the first time in 16 years, the group performed in the United States and Canada with its full company of 150 artists. To talk about this historic tour, I'm joined by Aneta Ormańczyk from the Center for Polish Folklore. Welcome, delighted to have you with us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure to be here.
So Mazowsze has just returned from a historic tour. They were in the US and Canada for the first time in 16 years. So what made this year the right time for such a long-awaited return?
So Mazowsze Ensemble was invited to the United States as part of the celebrations of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the US Declaration of Independence. So it was a remarkable occasion, it demanded a remarkable programme, but also I think, certainly from the perspective of audiences across the Atlantic and Mazowsze Ensemble itself, it was definitely time to cross the ocean and see those audiences once again.
So what was the most memorable moment on that tour?
So the tour was 2 weeks long. The ensemble returned last month. And there were 4 cities, so performances in 4 cities. We started in Washington, DC, then New York, Toronto, so into Canada, and we finished in Chicago. And I think what was particularly remarkable, that although there were only 4 cities, or as many as 4 cities on the stop, you were meeting audiences really from across all of the US and across all of Canada. So in Toronto, people had come from Winnipeg, they'd come from Montreal, they'd come from Vancouver. In Chicago, you could meet people from across the US. And I think that really made us aware of just how valuable, certainly for the Polish diaspora, but also for the very diverse audiences that attended these concerts, how valuable it is to have this cultural exchange. So I think that was quite remarkable, also for the performers.
So what do you think makes Polish folklore and traditional dance so appealing?
Whew, this is a very, very big and very interesting question. Well, I think, first of all, in terms of Polish folk song and dance, there is a lot of diversity. So each region has developed their own traditions, their own dances, adapted and developed over hundreds of years, of course. The costumes which the ensemble performs in are based on traditional dress from these different regions, from the second half of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, which once again is extremely varied. A lot of it is handmade, specially prepared, and this gives quite a remarkable impression on stage when you see, I don't know, 150 performers in all kinds of different costumes. But I think also it's to do with the work of Mazowsze Ensemble itself. The ensemble is inspired by Polish folk song and dance, so it uses that as a starting point for what is now quite an iconic programme. So that the programme in itself has been developed over the past 78 years, which is how long the ensemble has been working for. And it has involved very visionary composers, musicians, the founder of the ensemble, Tadeusz Sygietyński, who composed a large part of the music, his wife Mira Zimińska-Sygietyńska, who worked on the costumes, but also a huge range of choreographers who have put that folk dance onto the big stage, which means that it's quite an impressive sight to behold.
So let's zoom in on the logistics and sort of the backstage, right, behind this endeavor. So 150 artists, but over 1,000 costumes. How did you go about transporting all of this to the US?
Oh.
These costumes are quite heavy, right, and expensive and significant.
That's right. We have some from the Łowicz region in central Poland, wool and flax, which weigh well over 10 kilograms per costume. So once again, when you translate this into the 150 artists, performers, it's a very large endeavour. All the costumes had to be transported separately, so this was one logistical issue. Everything had to be organised also, so that if you have a performance in Washington on one day and in New York on the next, you are able to get them out, get them ready, get them sorted, hung out. Please also be aware that some costume changes may only be a couple of minutes, so the performers are constantly changing backstage for the next number, so they have to be well organised. There was a team from the costume department that travelled with the group, and we had wonderful staff available at local staff at all these theatres to help get those things organised. But this was often work in the middle of the night. It was also that kind of work for our technical team. There's always a huge amount of planning that goes into these tours, so you have to try and predict and plan for all the possible problems and hiccups which might occur along the way. Not to mention, of course, the logistics of transporting almost 200 people across the US every couple of days. So yes, it's always a very, very big endeavour. Luckily, the ensemble's very experienced in doing this. So there are certain lists, checklists, tick lists, which are followed again. The planning begins months in advance.
So let's talk about the costumes for a while longer. What is their significance? Because they represent all of these different traditions within Poland and regions.
That's right. So these costumes have over the years grown to be an aspect of local and national identity. So amongst the Polish diaspora, not only in the US, but indeed across the world, if you put on a costume, you're saying, I'm celebrating my cultural heritage. It's a very visual way for me to feel closer to that heritage, to get to know its nuances, but also to sort of promote intercultural dialogue, because my neighbours may very well not be Polish. And I think it's very important for individuals who may be of Polish heritage but grow up, I speak as a person of personal experience of this, it's very important to celebrate that, to understand where you're from so that you may move forward in life. And I think those costumes are symbolic in that respect.
So how do you balance staying authentic to local and national traditions, but also creating an engaging performance?
So, I think the most important thing is to talk about it. So to make it very clear to audiences that this is a group which is inspired by Polish folklore, that there was a lot of field work carried out, that these songs came back, these dances came back, and then a choreographer came in who adapted it for the purposes of the stage. But Mazowsze Ensemble also has its headquarters in Karolin. This is just outside Warsaw. And for 5 years now, we have the Centre for Polish Folklore, which is the educational arm of the artistic ensemble. And we very warmly invite visitors to come to listen to original field recordings, to compare this to what Mazowsze presents on stage. You can see costumes, stage costumes, as well as original elements which were brought to Karolin by researchers, by ethnographers over many, many years, so that the group had a sort of, I suppose, inspiration. They had original elements that they could work with. And the Centre for Polish Folklore is really great, I think, for audiences, for people interested, for tourists to come along, to have a look and to really get into the details. Because, of course, it is very important to talk about it, and it's a huge subject.
By all means, Mazowsze is an institution, but I was wondering what inspires young people to join Mazowsze today?
So I think, first of all, again, it's the huge variety. You'll be dancing dances from all across Poland, but you'll also be involved in performances for a variety of different occasions, which may mean that you step out of the normal programme of the ensemble. Mazowsze does a lot of collaborations with well-known Polish artists from the pop scene, the rock scene, opera singers. As a result of that, you will have a very varied programme, a lot of travel, of course, a lot of very sympathetic audiences who love to see you. I think it's a very, very rewarding job. Of course, it is not easy, as for any performer. You have irregular hours, a lot of travel, but the payoff, the rewards are great. And we see continued interest from young people who join the ensemble. Many of them make a long career in the group.
So the ensemble celebrates an 80th anniversary in 2 years.
Yes, very soon.
Right. So very soon, by all means. But I was wondering if you could share with our viewers some of the ensemble's history, just to paint a better picture of what it really is.
Yes, of course. So Mazowsze Ensemble was set up in 1948. There was a sense that there was a need to preserve and promote the folk culture. Of course, we're talking in the difficult years after the Second World War. And initially, it was supposed to look after the folklore of central Poland, and hence the name Mazowsze. Of course, over the years, this programme expanded, extended, and now the group has a programme consisting of songs and dances from over 40 different ethnographic regions. So this is a very large programme. Every concert is different because of this now, so you can pick and choose which dances and which songs will go in each programme. The founder of the group was composer and conductor Tadeusz Sygietyński, but it is a national estate ensemble, if you like. It is co-led currently by the local government of the Mazowieckie Voivodeship of this region in central Poland, and by the Polish Ministry for Culture and National Heritage. And for many years, Mazowsze developed its programme to represent Polish culture, not only in Poland, but also abroad. So its first trip abroad was only a few years after its inception, and the first trip across the Atlantic already in 1961. In terms of the programme, Tadeusz Sygietyński, a composer, travelled particularly in the Mazowsze region, but also to other regions, and gathered songs, gathered dances, which were then adapted for the purposes of the stage. Mira Sygietyńska, his wife, made contact with lots of individuals across Poland who were specialists in terms of costume and what this traditional dress would have looked like. Of course, over the years, the ensemble expanded as well. So currently, as he said, we're over 150 individuals. This is a choir, a ballet group, so the dancers, but also a 50-piece orchestra. So it's quite remarkable today when you go and see the ensemble, especially in its the full company, because it really makes quite an impression.
So this big 80th anniversary is coming up. Are you already prepping?
Yes.
So what are you preparing?
So preparations always for these sorts of big occasions start a few years in advance. I must admit that at the moment, though, it's being kept quite under wraps. So please do follow the ensemble to find out exactly what will be going on. More immediately, however, if anybody is in the vicinity of Karolin on the 20th and 21st of June, we have the big annual Mazowsze picnic, so you can see the group live. It is definitely worth seeing the group live because this is quite an experience for the senses. And certainly the 80th anniversary will also involve a lot of live shows, certainly in the Mazowsze region in Warsaw, perhaps also abroad.
And do you think that Mazowsze could be perceived as an element of Poland's soft power?
Well, I think for many years it certainly was, and I think it probably, to an extent, could be today as well. Certainly, this is a way to introduce your culture in a very visual way. There's plenty to discuss, there's plenty to compare. So you can say, well, in our culture we do it like this. So it opens conversations and stimulates people to talk. It gives a good point of reference. But also, over 78 years, Mazowsze actually has become a tradition in itself. So you'll speak to people, in fact, on this US tour, it was like this. He said, oh, I remember the performance in 1961. Or my family always listens to Mazowsze's Christmas carols at Christmas time. Or I learned Mazowsze songs from my grandmother. So 78 years is enough, really, to create a tradition in and of itself. And it's quite a recognisable name, a recognisable brand now worldwide.
And Aneta, on a more personal note, before we go, what drew you to Mazowsze?
Well, so I'm one of these members of the Polish diaspora. I was born in London, and in fact, I lived there until 7 years ago. I first saw Mazowsze Ensemble in 1989. My parents took me to a performance in London, and I remember being astounded at what I saw, all the colours. I then joined a Polish dance ensemble as well. I did an instructor's course and started to teach. I'm a history graduate, so of course that element always very much interested me. And when I heard that the Centre for Polish Folklore was opening, I thought, what a wonderful idea. Maybe I'll manage to work there one day. And as they say, when you're in the right time, in the right place at the right time, sometimes these things happen. And this is why. So really, thanks to Mazowsze in part, I suppose, I'm here today.
That was certainly meant to be. Aneta Ormańczyk, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Pulse of Culture. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.